This is the Oracle Podcast with Ben Moa. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Oracle. I'm your host, Ben Moa, and I hope everyone's been having a blessed time in, just past our second week of the new year. Today on the show, we have Fenmore. He's a musician currently in Vancouver, and in this episode, he explains his perspective and his motivation behind music. And further in the episode, it gets pretty interesting because he starts talking about and sharing with us his battle with being restless. I think it's a very relatable topic, very relatable subject, because being restless is something I think we all experience. We're all pushed as people to always know what's next, to always know what we are planning to do, to always have a concept and a vision of what's supposed to come up right after this, whatever the moment is right now, that it's hard for us to be present. But, I think that we are never truly ourselves without living in the now. So, I won't say anything else. Enjoy the show, and thanks for tuning in.
Okay, hi, my name is Fenmore. I'm from Madagascar. Let's keep it simple for now. And I'm a musician and also going to school to be a teacher. Interestingly enough, yeah. And
you are a musician, as you said, and you make music.
Yeah.
And where did that come from? How'd you become a musician, or how'd you get to this point where you refer to yourself as a musician?
Wow. Okay, we're gonna get right into it.
I'm not holding back. I want to know the juice before.
Okay. All right. How did I get here? Okay. So my family is all very musical, not just like my parents, but my entire extended family. And I swear my cousins are like, some of them are way more talented than I am, or ever could be. But so I just kind of grew up with music my whole life. My mom was telling me the story of how, like, my cousins would like sing a special at church, and I'd be I'd force myself onto the stage as well. I was such a diva apparently. Start crying I want to sing too. But I never really got into music until I was around 12. Was when I really discovered the power of music, I guess you could say, or what music means to me.
What's that? Power of music? What does that mean? What's the power of music, and what does it mean to you?
Oh wow. Okay, so for me, I've tried to distill what that means, and I think in 2 words, I would say it's to validate and then elevate. So the kind of music that I was drawn to is it validated what I was going through, what I'm feeling. It's relatable. And it validates your existence, other people are going through this, and just that, just that feeling. And then it elevates, meaning that it inspires you to move on. It's something that you can aspire to. So that for me is what the best music does, right? And that's for me the power of music, to validate and then elevate your situation or your mental well-being and stuff like that.
So does that translate into the way you make music? How do you see that for you?
Yeah, so I've been writing music for a while, since I was 13, and man, it used to suck so bad. I've gotten a little better, but let me tell you something. I wrote a song about a moth when I was 14. I thought it was the dopest thing ever, and it wasn't. It's a moth. I thought it was so wow, it's so artistic, but it wasn't. But I've always been scared of writing music that's just super honest, because it almost feels like an invasion of privacy. But also at the same time, that's kind of like the music I love the most. Don't get me wrong. I love like trashy pop songs sometimes, you know, and those hype songs, they're super fun. But I also just love music that's super real. And I've been scared of writing those kind of songs until this year, kind of, or the past few years. I've been writing songs that just mean a lot more to me and they're a lot more personal. And the next batch of songs that I'm gonna be like releasing are gonna be by far like the most personal that I'm gonna be releasing, because I feel like it's just important to not just own what I believe music should do, which is to validate, you know, and just to like be relatable and say what you've been going through. Maybe someone else can relate to that as well.
Do you think like people can actually like enjoy music truly without, if it doesn't validate or elevate?
Oh yeah, I mean like there's music where it's just super fun, and in a sense that's kind of like elevating your, you know, emotional state.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you go to the parties, like when you, sorry, not parties, but like I don't do parties. I swear I don't do parties.
It's all good.
But when you go to, like, I was gonna say weddings, like weddings.
Yeah. Wedding
You know,
reception.
and it's like wedding reception, and it's time to dance. You know, like everyone can get down to teach me how to Dougie. You know, like that's a super fun
oldie.
song.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you can still connect to it, but for me, like the actual power of music also just comes from the way a songwriter creates something that other people can relate to. Yeah.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Does it make sense?
No, it does. It does make sense. Okay, so then now just striking a little deeper into Fenmore, into who you are. And you say like you don't like to write songs. Well, you didn't like to write songs that necessarily like dive deep and showed your heart.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? Like, so would you like literally write about a personal experience, or do you? How do you mask that? Like, I know like sometimes like artists, they make songs and, you know, they're not necessarily talking about their life experience, but they're kind of alluding. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a mixture of the truth and a bit of drama. That's what Eminem said once. He's like, well, it's my life story, but I just make it a little bit more dramatic than it actually was. And it's kind of the same sense for me too, but it's kind of the opposite. I try to make it less dramatic than it actually was, which is a weird thing to say. But for me, the most important thing is to get the feeling across, right? If I feel moved by the song I'm writing, then hopefully someone else can be moved by that as well. So as long as it feels authentic to me, then it should work. So for example, like a concrete example, like I'll be writing a song and then I put in a line that's really like very specific, and I feel like it's so distracting it's going to take away from the song. So then I just alter it a little bit so it's more generalized, but it still has the gist of what I was trying to say.
I see.
Does it? Yeah.
So then, when was the first song that you had to write that was from your heart? What was that song?
What was that song? Oh man. That had to do with me. Let me see. I think, well, I have my lyrics are all in here. Maybe I'll find something.
Oh, that file was ready.
It's really long. Okay, well, this is a song called Horizons. I remember writing this a few years ago. And for me, a lot of my thinking goes into how I've used my time in life. I don't know if you ever think about that. Like, I know we're still young, but I already think like, man, how much time have I already wasted? And that's a lot of the time is what I'm thinking about. So this song Horizons, for example, it's about how we all have these great aspirations to make the best out of our lives, but then sometimes we get rolled over by like the day to day, and then 2 years later you're like, oh my goodness, where did time go? Because you just got lost in the mundane, in the everyday life, that you seem to forget where you're heading to and your purpose. And I guess that was like a song that kind of spoke to spoke to like what I always think about, which is a little bit dramatic. My goodness, like
No. Yeah, I don't think that's dramatic. I think that's just being genuine.
yeah, yeah. So that's one song, I guess, and then that was written. I don't know. That was written like I don't know, like 3 years ago or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I've written a lot of songs since then. Some songs I have to like really mine and dig deep. Other songs come through dreams. And then other songs just you sit down and you just start writing and then just like it's done and you're like, I don't know how that happened.
Okay, and it's which process is the highest quality?
Which process is the highest quality?
Yeah, dreams, digging deep, or the kind of just write it.
It just comes. I think kind of like when it just comes, because it literally is. I don't know how I wrote the song, and sometimes it's done in like 45 minutes or 15 minutes, and you're like, okay, it's done. And usually those kind of songs flow the best because there's nothing like hindering it. Like Michael Jackson said that once. He's like, artists just need to get out of the way of the song, and I really believe that sometimes. I usually get in the way of the song so much because I'm like, maybe I should change it like this, and then change this way, and then change this way. But usually the best songs is just like, I just start playing chords and start singing, and the lyrics come easily, and then we're done in like 45, 30 minutes. Yeah, and then maybe edit it later, like to make it
Wow.
better.
So like the less preparation and the more natural it is, you find, is the better the song at the end of it all?
Oh, yeah, but it depends on what you define as preparation. Like, my preparation would be years of songwriting. That's crap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to like keep working at your craft again and again and again and again, and you're gonna write terrible songs, but they make you better so that you're able to write those songs in 15 seconds or 15 minutes that are really good. If you didn't have like the thousands of hours behind you, you wouldn't be able to put up like 15 minutes of a good song, like a song in 15 minutes.
So every failure or every kind of trashy song was your preparation to get to this point where you can put out songs quick.
Yeah, I think. So I watch a lot of interviews with musicians, right? So I have all these like quotes from musicians.
Yeah.
But it just I can't say it better, so I'm just gonna quote them. Like Ed Sheeran says, like it's like running a dirty tap. You know what I mean? Like it's like when you first turn it on, like it's just brown water, but you let it keep running, and finally it'll turn clear. It's kind of like that. You just let it keep going, and then at some point you're like, okay, that's what I was trying to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's actually beautiful. I love that.
But it's also frustrating. But it's the same for like everything, right? Like even like if you're doing podcasts, man, or like wherever you just get better and better and better if you keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No matter what you do.
That's pretty encouraging. I think like it's hard to start things because of that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's hard to start things because of the dirty water at first.
Dirty water, yeah.
And like it's hard to wait till the point it's clear.
Yeah.
And so.
But if you love it and if it's something you need to do or like want to do, then keep at it. I mean, so this year I started a project called Levels, and it was just literally because I was so tired of I was writing songs, but I would never release them because it was like it's not good enough. I can't do it. And then finally, like the beginning of the year, I was like, you know what? I am just going to release a song. It's not going to be my best song. It's not going to be the most well produced, but I'm going to do it because you need to. At some point, you're just going to need to force yourself, right? Mm-hmm. You're just going to need to force yourself. And the reason why I called it Levels is because sometimes when we start something new, we like to think, or we like to hope that we start at 0 and then get to 100 right away. I'm going to do this one thing and it's going to be amazing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But it takes levels. You gotta step it up each time, and it's kind of like my reasoning behind that. And so I have right now, like I've released level 1, which is like 3 songs, and then level 2, which was 3 songs, and then I'm gonna be releasing level 3, which will be 3 songs to like end it off for this year. Yeah.
And like now I'm wondering, like now I've understood like your process of making music now.
Yeah.
But again, you mentioned that you're just from Madagascar, and just for now you're going to say that. But you've had a very interesting long life.
Long.
I think you've gone a lot of places. I think you've visited a lot of places than most, and you've had a different story than most of the people I think that you've met in your life in Canada.
Yeah.
And so, tell us about that a little bit, like listeners, and let me know like more about just kind of, I guess, a Coles Note version. So I don't want you to think that I'm asking you just to rip out every moment, but just where'd you come from and how did you get to here?
Well, it was 1:30 p.m. on the 12th of June, 1992. So kind of how I break up my life, honestly, is my education career. I was born in Madagascar and then did kindergarten there till like I was 6. Mm-hmm. Then we moved to Lesotho, which is a country in Africa. I did my primary school there, which is elementary. It's called elementary here, I guess. And then I did high school in South Africa. And then we moved to Canada where I did university and still am doing university. Moved here in 2010. So, yeah, so those are like the 4 countries I've lived in so far. But even here in Canada, I just realized I've lived in like 5 places. I lived in 100 Mile House. Do you know where 100 Mile House is?
No.
It's like this really small town up north in BC. Here, you drive past it like in 2 minutes. I have no idea when my parents decided to like immigrate to 100 Mile House out of any place in Canada. They're like, yeah, this seems like a great place. It's pretty awesome, but it's not my thing. Not like a thing for a teenager.
You didn't love that?
No, man. I was in the basement the whole time. I was like these mosquitoes everywhere. Like, what the heck? Anyways, but no hate on 100 Mile House. But I went to 100 Mile House, and then I went to Lacombe, Burman. Then I went to Kamloops. I lived there. And then I moved to Kelowna. I lived there for a few years, and now I'm here in Vancouver. So I've lived a few places. And what can I say? I feel like, I don't know, like, there are other kids like me that I like to call, or like we like to call ourselves like international kids, because we've lived like a few different places, or missionary kids even. And it's almost like we have a slightly different version of culture than everyone else has. I know we talked about this, maybe.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. Where we take, well, for me personally, I take aspects of different cultures that I love or I like, and then ignore the others. And if I do something weird, I'll just be like, it's part of my culture. And no one knows what the culture of Madagascar is, so I can just...
Yeah, that's true. People only know the movie.
Yeah, people only know the movie. Yo, I told people that our national anthem was I Like to Move It, Move It. And there were some people who, like, believed me for a second.
No, stop it.
Yes!
Gosh.
Yo, there's some ignorant paninis out there, but like, I was like, yeah, we sing I like to move it, move it. I'm like, nah.
And so how has that formed like, your relations and how you see things? Like, describe that more, because you're saying it affects the way you see things socially. Mm-hmm. Like, how? What does that mean?
Well, when I first came to Canada, like, you know, Canadians like to think that they don't have any culture. You guys, there is a definite culture here that is really evident right away. Like, even your stray dogs are nice. Like, stray dogs are not nice everywhere in the world. If you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
kind of scary.
Yeah. People are really nice here. But also there's, for example, like, I see the crazy sensitivity people have here that sometimes borders on, you're a bit too sensitive right now. Do you know, I don't know if it's like, if it makes sense to other people that have lived in other countries, because like in South Africa they're pretty like blunt or frank sometimes. So when I moved here, I just realized you gotta like change a little bit so that you don't offend everyone all the time.
Did you have to do that like yourself? Like you had to be careful like kind of the way you comment on things? Sometimes,
yeah, I make a conscious decision. Or but other times I'd say things that are, my friends would be like, that's really mean. And I'm like, I've said meaner things, but it's whatever. Also, another thing, like, I had to change my accent a little bit because no one could understand me. Because I mumble a little bit as well. So then, but then also plus with the South African accent, it was like, what?
Wow.
It's like, can I get like, for example, like asking for a glass of water. Like, say, can I have a glass of water? Like, I can't even say water. Can I have water? And then like, what? Water. You're like, can I have a glass of water?
Yeah,
you gotta say why. You can't say water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyways, what a tangent. But that's just like a few ways that I maybe see things differently. But in the same vein, when I go back to Madagascar, I see a lot of things that maybe I don't agree with or seem overly conservative to me. So it's weird. I feel like I live in a limbo of ideals where I don't really subscribe to like any one particular belief system or cultural system.
And how does that affect you? Like, does that make you feel kind of like sometimes isolated?
Yeah, but I'm used to that. Like, it's the thing about, okay, I feel really like arrogant saying this, but the thing about artists is, okay, sometimes we tend to get really like isolate ourselves. I don't know why. But for me personally, sometimes it's just because I'm thinking about all these other different things, and I'm really idealistic as a person. I don't know if it's part of just like how God made me as an artist. Like, I'm super idealistic, so I have these ideas of what friendships are supposed to be like, idea of like what the world should be like, and that does affect me because another upside is I'm also kind of sensitive. Which I own up to. I'm far too sensitive sometimes. And so then those two combinations just make me want to isolate myself because I don't want to deal with, for example, like relationships that are just disappointing or people that are just disappointing. So in that sense, it is a bit isolating. But like I'm not like complaining or anything. It's just I've learned how to deal around with that, like work around that, and I'm super fine. I've worked on myself a lot actually, so yeah.
Okay, so has there ever been almost in your life of music and from your cultures or maybe mixes of cultures that you've learned from, has there ever been like an unhealthy experience through that or that you've experienced through that?
I've had a lot of unhealthy experiences, but what do you mean exactly?
Like anything that you experienced because of your history of traveling into Canada and like your experiences through in South Africa and in Lesotho, etc. Like, has that ever had to translate like poorly through anything or like in any of interactions?
Well, I will say it has created in me like this sense of restlessness. I wrote a song about that. Should be released sometime next year in the summer. But I think the one thing that has been a part of my life or that has become a part of me because of that is I am super restless. I always, whenever I get to a new place, I'm always like thinking about where I'm going to go next.
Wow.
So like my song, for example, I say I was raised to be restless. It's built into my bones. And that's just how I feel. So it's sometimes hard to really let myself connect properly with other people because I already, the minute I get to know someone, I'm already thinking in the back of my mind, I'm going to say goodbye to you at some point. Right? And so I'm learning to like not do that and just live moment by moment and like embrace everyone and every situation as fully as possible, you know, because living in that space of constant transit is not healthy, and you don't get to live life fully if you don't make that decision to live it fully.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, how can you, I guess, how have you been able to produce in the moment when you're always thinking about what's next?
Yeah. Is that a question?
I guess. It is. Like, I want to know, like, how you've been able to, if you've always been thinking like that.
Like how do I produce songs, or how do I...
Just how do you conduct yourself and, like, produce in general? Because, like, it's through school and even in music, like, if you're always thinking about what's next.
That's a good question. Well, okay, doctor. I feel like you're my therapist.
No, man. I was just talking to you, Fenmore.
Okay. Well, how do you live always thinking about the next? Okay. That's a good question. I guess you can't really live fully without, and I haven't, I guess, in a sense, really fully embraced where I am at any time. There are moments in my life where I remember being really in the moment and super happy.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to like keep that feeling, but it just always like escapes me. What I do know is that I try to live my life with as much integrity as possible in the moment. And that kind of like offsets this thing in my mind where I'm always thinking of what's next and how long it's going to last. Is that just is my desire to be as authentic with someone as possible, even though I'm not like allowing the relationship to be like fully a full relationship. Is that making sense at all?
No, it does. Like, I guess what you're saying, like, from what I'm understanding, is that though you always are like in your heart thinking about what's next, you seek to be genuine with people
as much as it can.
As much as you can. So I guess that kind of it almost balances it. Because to be genuine, you have to be in the moment almost.
Yeah.
But still, deep down in your mind, you're always thinking about what's next.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I understand.
Because like I can meet someone and it's so important for me to be as kind as possible. Like I'm really honestly I'm really salty and sassy sometimes to people, but in like my deepest core, I just want to be kind to people, and I think to be genuinely kind to people and to give them their due and listen to them when they're talking to me, and that's where I come from. There's a place where I come from. Doesn't mean that I share everything about myself with them or like let them know what's up in my brain, because sometimes it's a bit messed up, but I try to give them that moment of full attention. Yeah.
Okay, so then now that I've kind of gotten to more to understand who you are, how does that explain, like, what's your why for your music? And, like, where does that come from? Like, I can assume it, but I want to know, like, what do you think your why is then from all your experiences, through always wanting to be genuine, but being restless? What's your why?
I think because music saved my life, like literally at one point. So it became an integral part of who I am. And let me tell you, like there's times I just want to don't want to do it because it's like frustrating, and I have pressure to just follow a straight path like everyone does, and just make a steady income, get a lot of money. My parents always wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, something that makes a lot of money.
Yeah, I know.
We're part Asian, so it's like, and also African, so that double Afro-Asian pressure going on here. Like,
that's tough.
you gotta make something of yourself here. But I'm also just inherently a dreamer, and so I honestly believe that my why. I remember saying this to my parents even when I was 10. I was like, I am never gonna wake up one day and hate what I do. Even when they were telling me like you gotta be a doctor, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna wake up one day and hate what I do. That makes no sense to me. Made no sense to me as a kid. It still makes no sense to me now. So I do music because I love it. That's what makes me, for lack of a better term, feel alive. Or just have that flow and you just keep going. That flow, like when you're just like in the moment and you forget time. Yeah, I can like go without drinking. I can go without eating. I can go without sleeping when I'm really into it. And that's why I do it. But then I also do it because I feel like I have a perspective, and everyone does have a perspective that is valid and that needs to be heard, and I feel like I could offer something good in the music industry. But I just gotta keep going at it. It's a marathon. It's not a race, as I've come to learn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I just wanna, thanks so much, Fenmore, by the way.
Yeah, no worries.
And I know it's already been some time, but I guess in closing, what would you tell listeners who are restless?
Well,
that's my question to you. That one, it's a little bit of a curveball, but I'm just thinking about it. I think what you explained is actually that you've been dealing with and what you've dealt with is what a lot of people deal with. It's hard to live in the moment because it requires a decent amount of effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you tell people who are experiencing that or don't know how to? Or how have you been able to kind of find your way through that?
So I've done a lot of mental work on myself, if that makes sense, because I've there's a part of restlessness that is obviously just not healthy, because you're always just like not at peace with yourself, because you're always just restless. Like, what am I doing here? Where am I supposed to be going? Like, when am I gonna be at peace? And that's not healthy. But there's also a part of being restless that's super exciting, because you not want to just stay put and not change, you know? I used to be a little bit scared of growing older and growing up, because like, oh no, it's going to get boring. But now I've changed my mindset and, you know, taken the positive aspect of restlessness, and I've decided that life's just going to get better the older you grow. And I'm going to make decisions or make choices that help me to grow and become better as I grow older. So by the time that I'm 40 or 50, I'm going to be like in the best spot of my life than I was, you know, when I was 20. Because I've always hated the old saying, the good old days, you know? I always say better days are coming soon. That's my motto, like better days are coming. And that's part of the kind of good aspects of restlessness. But to deal with the negative aspects, you know, practical things I've done. I like practicality. So practical things I've done is for example, lately I've been meditating / praying to be in the moment, you know, to settle my mind. For people who are like really restless, like in their mind, like meditating and just like praying about being in the moment and being grateful for every moment that you have and every day that you have is extremely, extremely helpful. Telling yourself that it's not a race, that you're in no hurry, that the things will come to you when they should come. That's going to be really helpful. Taking on new tasks, or not new tasks, but learning new things. Like, for example, if you're really restless being in a certain place, if you just like get a new hobby, like this is practical stuff, like if you get a new hobby, it will like not only develop you as a person, but also just ease off that need to always just do something else, you know? I really believe in developing yourself as a human being, no matter how old you are, and trying something new and going for different boundaries. So yeah, those are just a few things, like meditating or praying, being in the moment, getting new hobbies, and just changing your mindset about what life is. It's not about chasing highs, and it's about enjoying every moment, you know. And you can still be restless, but just take the positive aspects of that restlessness. And I feel like there's a lot more to say about that, but I can't. I'm not eloquent enough to just talk about it right now.
Thanks again, Fenmore. That was such an amazing time just to talk with you. And thank you for sharing your story and what everything means to you so far and what you've learned in life. If you're interested in listening to Fenmore, please check out his music. Yeah, he's had such a nice and unique sound. And something I just really appreciate about him is just constant boldness and his constant pursuit just to make what he loves great. So you can find his music, just search Fenmore, Fenmore, on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, on Facebook. On YouTube, he has music videos up there. Check out his sound. On Instagram, Fenmore, just search that. You'll find him ASAP. It's a very unique name, so I'm sure you can't miss it. Thank you so much once again, Fenmore. Thank you guys, everyone who's been spending their time listening to the Oracle. Stay tuned because we have more to come. And remember that focus on now. because what's coming next is going to come regardless. So try and be present. Stay blessed.